Friday. Yes, it is Friday. It's a brand new month, too. So come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by TheGamingGang.com. Welcome aboard. Today is Friday, March 1st, 2019. This is episode 256 of The Daily Dope. So, come on in, welcome aboard. I am Jeff McAleer. I'm your host here. If this is the first time you visited, welcome aboard. Very, very casual show. This is a live stream. Hey, Kabuki Kid is already jumping on board. Howdy, what's going on there, Kabuki Kid? Or I guess I should say, what, KK for short? If that's okay, maybe I'll just say KK. Of course, it's up to Kabuki. Kabuki can say, no, Jeff. No. Anywho, as I was going to say, since this is a live show, chat is available on YouTube. So Kabuki Kid already chimed in to say howdy. So if you are watching live, and I know a vast majority of people tend to catch this show after the fact, but if you are watching live, you want to say howdy, by all means, feel free. If you have a question, fire away, or if you might want to get a closer look at Adventures in Middle-earth, the Bree-land Region guide, which I am going to be taking a look at tonight, then by all means, chime on in and ask, and I will respond. Do you want to point out that chat is not on screen? It's one of the ways that I keep some of the stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to chat. So as you can see, I'm kind of already whatever I prefer. No, it's what you prefer, Kabuki Kid. It's your nickname. It's like, hey, I didn't say KKK. I just said KK. Anyway, so lots going on. It is obviously enough. It is the first of the month, so it's a brand new month. This is March 1st, so that's pretty cool. Hopefully things are going to start warming up a little more in the Chicago area because it is damn cold out again. It's kind of, you can kind of get a clue of how cold it is in the duct tape studios when, depending on what I'm wearing. So this is one of like my heavier kind of like sweatshirts. So it is chillier than it has been the past few days down here in the duct tape studios. So, and I do know good old Pinky is floating around. Looks like she's hunkering down, getting ready to kind of zonk out. So, because every once in a while we get Pinky chiming in rather loudly, though you never see her. Although I did tweet a photo of her on the Gaming Gang Twitter feed last week. The mysterious Pinky, as well as Smokey. Yeah, Ghost World is popping in a little early because I know Ghost is looking forward to the Bree-land Region guide, or Bree-land, I guess we would say, Region guide. So I've got a couple of news pieces. Going to get into that, talk about what's on the horizon for next week's shows, and of course we'll jump into the first look and page through the Bree-land Region guide. So starting off, I've only got a couple of news pieces, but they are pretty long news pieces. First off, my friends over at Free League Publishing is currently in the midst of wrapping up a Kickstarter to bring an illustrated edition of the Call of Cthulhu to English readers. This has been out in, I believe, other languages. Might have been out in Swedish, I do believe. But I do have the dope on the Kickstarter. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and which strange aeons, even death, may die. An unspeakable horror, something beyond reality itself, is haunting humanity. In the shadows, those dwell who wish to spread madness and destruction. Are you one of those ready to awaken ancient powers in the depth? Will you help to bring forth the end of the world? No. No, I will not do that. Classic story by H.P. Lovecraft as it's never been seen before. H.P. Lovecraft is a giant of horror literature and pop culture. Yes, not necessarily well thought of in some ways these days. But since the 1920s, his short stories and novels have spellbound generations and influenced countless games, comics, novels, records, and films. Lovecraft never did a novel. Lovecraft wrote novellas. At the Mountains of Madness is a novella. That's really not a novel, and that's like the longest thing he ever wrote, I believe. Anywho, his short story, The Call of Cthulhu, written in 1926 and first published in Weird Tales in 1928, is an absolute classic. Now, French artist Francois Barringer, taking a stab, folks, presents the ultimate illustrated version of the story. By backing this project, you will help fund the English edition of the book that has already been a smash hit in several European countries. A portion of the funds will go directly to the artist himself and will allow him to continue his work in creating more amazing illustration of Lovecraft's tales. If the campaign goes well, we will publish several exclusive new art prints of Barringer's hand-painted images and even design a complete role-playing game based on Lovecraft's original tales and Barringer's art. Well, there is a short Kickstarter video. It's just over a minute long, but let's take a peek because this looks mighty cool.
The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. That is not dead which can be turned nigh, and with strange eons even death may lie.
Currently have a few days left to back the illustrated Call of Cthulhu, and the project is right now over 700% funded. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover for a $32 pledge through March 7th with an expected delivery of June this year. So pretty fast turnaround. Hey, Flaming Heron's popping in. Howdy, Flaming Heron. So, we had some drop frames early here, strangely enough. So, I'm seeing if I can address that. So, because things have actually been pretty clear, pretty clean the past few nights. So, I don't know. Pretty strange. Harlan Ellison, all-time favorite, was a bit of a jerk, says Kabuki Kid. Yes, Harlan Ellison was a very unique individual there, and let's say he had a pretty major ego. Although I gotta admit, I always found him to be pretty funny. There's a documentary out there, and for some strange reason, I want to say it's hosted by Neil Gaiman, because Neil Gaiman was good friends with Harlan Ellison, and it's very interesting, very interesting. On a side note, talking about Harlan Ellison, there was an audiobook that I got my hands on, and it was his original script for City at the Edge of, City at the Edge of Forever? The famous Star Trek episode. And it was weird because it was like an audio book, an audio reading of all these various incarnations of his script, of his story, and it was kind of crazy. It was like, okay, this is like the 7th time I'm listening to you guys reading this story. Okay, I get it. I understand. I don't need every tiny little different nuance. Oh no, Harlan used this word this time. So, but yeah, okay. Harlan Ellison was a jerk, but I don't think he was a jerk to just regular old folks on the street. So, I don't know. Who knows? All right, my second news piece. There is an RPG that is finally available in PDF. I know a lot of people are very, very pumped about this. Just hit this week. Yes, Monte Cook's impressive Invisible Sun is finally available in PDF, and I've got the dope. And this isn't even a third of the stuff that's on Drive-Thru RPG written about this game. A role-playing game of surreal fantasy, secrets, and magic that is truly magical. Wield fabulous powers as you uncover the secrets of reality itself. Do you think you live in the real world? You don't. This world you see around you is shadow, a world illuminated only by the gray sun. You think it is your home, but that's because you've forgotten your true self. Awaken and return to the actuality and Saturnine, the city under the indigo sun. You are Vizsla. Vizsla? Taking a guess here. A wielder of fabulous powers and capabilities, a shaper of reality itself. You sought shelter in shadow to escape the war, but the war is now over, and your home has called you back. Conventional role-playing gameplay, with everyone gathered for a few hours every week or two, is what makes RPGs a great experience. It's also one of the greatest obstacles to a successful campaign, for our modern life rarely makes it convenient. Conventional play is the centerpiece of Invisible Sun, but the game also accommodates the realities of our lifestyles, rewards engagement with the game away from the table, and is deliberately made for differing player styles. Play doesn't have to stop when the session is over. Players can keep the game going, individually or in groups. Individually? By creating side scenes that describe high-level actions that their character wants to take. They can also create flashback side scenes that reveal actions their characters have already taken. This also means that even if they can't make it to the regular session, they can still move their character's story forward. A side scene might cover what Shanna's character does. I should say Shauna, because I'm sure it's supposed to be Shauna Germain, although her name is actually spelt like you would spell Shanna. A side scene might cover what Shauna's character does while she's absent from the regular session. The Invisible Sun role-playing game is an unprecedented production filled with massive amounts of content for a unique role-playing experience. The Invisible Sun PDF contains roughly 80 files, not pages, files, including, and this is not an exhaustive list, 4 books totaling over 600 pages of game and setting content, fully hyperlinked and bookmarked. Roughly 1,000 cards laid out in a printer-friendly format. The Sooth deck, a beautiful tarot-like deck that's instrumental to gameplay. The Path of Suns, used with the Sooth deck. A wide variety of tokens for tracking game info, several poster maps, the Guiding Hand, GM's Notebook, in both a printer-friendly and form-fillable format. Character tomes, similar in function to character sheets in other RPGs, for all 4 orders, plus apostates along with grimoire. What is it? Grimoire? I think it's grimoire, if I remember correctly. You know, like your magic book, grimoire. Sheets, 5 pre-generated characters, loads of insetting handouts and props, a gorgeous art book, and the Invisible Sun app is free from the Monte Cook Games shop. Invisible Sun is a game about discovery and secrets. There may be other content awaiting discovery in your PDF. You can score the 1,000 pages, yes, you heard that right, 1,000 pages for $99 at Drive-Thru RPG. The download includes, as I mentioned, an astonishing 80 files and clocks in at 333 megabytes. Yowza. All right, so let's see what's cooking in chat. City on the Edge of Forever. I thought I don't know why I blanked on that. It's like, yeah, City on the Edge of Milwaukee. Hey, at least I remembered it in time. And we've got Glenn Darren popping in. Howdy, Glenn. So, good deal. I gotta say, Invisible Sun looks really cool. I mean, it comes in this huge. I do not have it personally. Monte Cook Games. It's kind of weird. I've gotten some PDFs and done reviews for them in the past. I interviewed Monty, not this past Gen Con before that. He was super nice. I know some people don't care for him, but he was super nice to me. I kind of worked with their PR person and didn't, I don't know. There was, it was one of these PR people who was sort of like, yeah, we want you to, promote our products, but God forbid we, share a review copy of anything with you. So, unfortunately, she's still floating around with the company too. So that's why I don't usually share much Monte Cook news. But I know a lot of people have been sitting there really pumped with Invisible Sun, and the price tag for the physical product has kind of held a lot of people back from checking it out. It does look pretty cool. Honestly, I don't think it's the sort of system that I would want to run. Number one, I'm not real big on characters having being really powerful, and it almost seems like the characters in Invisible Sun are, like it even said, shapers of reality. I mean, that's pretty powerful. I like my players to have to earn that, and a lot of cards and stuff like that. I'm just not into. I'm not into have a lot of stuff at the table in order to play a role-playing game. Just like I don't do miniatures. I love miniatures, love painting miniatures. I love battle games with miniatures. I am just not a fan of miniatures during a role-playing game. So most of the time, I find it distracts the players from the actual goings-on. Anyway, yeah, Munchkin-y. I don't know. I don't know if it's Munchkin-y. All right, so last thing I want to point out right now, there is the GM's Day sale going on at Drive-Thru RPG. Storyteller's Vault also has it going on, as well as DM's. What is it? Dungeon Masters Guild. I forget. Yeah, it's one of those one bookshelf sites that does third-party D&D stuff. But they all have a sale going on. I think we've got 9 days left. We've got like 9.5 days left to the sale. Quite a lot of savings out there. Pretty cool stuff. Do want to point out, I'm sure for a vast majority of people who are going to see this video, it's going to be way too late to get on board this. But if you are a fan, or if you have kind of considered taking a look at Shadow of the Demon Lord, which is from Schwalbe Entertainment, you can get the core book today only today, as the deal of the day for $8. That is a sweet deal. I peeked at that. I have not read a whole lot about it. I have not really delved into that system, but I did peek at the core book once, and it was pretty cool. For $8 in PDF, check it out. That is the deal of the day, but the GM sale is still going on through next week, and you can save at least 20% on tens of thousands of items. All right, agree about minis with D&D, Kabuki says. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just, like I said, I love miniatures. I had minis back in the day, just never used them because I think I run games a little bit different than I think some game masters out there too. I don't expect my players to kind of act in character and stuff like that, or do voices, but I will. And it's funny because my players know it's an important NPC if Jeff's doing a voice. So what can I tell you? But I try to paint the picture mentally, as opposed to, all right, I need you guys to take the graph paper out and write this down, or have one of those big sheets that dry erase maps and stuff where you put your minis on. I think that'd be cool to play games like Frostgrave, skirmish level stuff, but just not for role-playing games. All right, yes, overpowered games do get pretty boring too. Nothing like role-playing a rat catcher or a beggar. There goes Ghost with his damn Warhammer 4th edition again. Is Dominic paying you to hang out on these Is he paying you to hang out on these streams? Is that how it's working, Ghost? Yes, TSR did make a game with level 0 characters. That's a thing. That's a big thing with Dungeon Crawl Classics. Which there's some stuff about Dungeon Crawl Classics that I really like, and then there's other stuff I'm like, oh man, it's just too fiddly and stuff. Like all the different kinds of dice, and it's not regular role-playing game dice, right? It's like you got to get like a die that's like 1 through 24, where you have to get the app. You got to have a 30-sided die. I remember having a 30-sided die back in the day. Not any longer, but Ghost says, I love the setting. Trust me, I have my huge complaints about 4E. All right, so we're gonna jump into to the first look at the Bree-land Region guide in just a moment. But as far as this is how I look at it, my opinion on role-playing games, and that's why I know there are some people out there who like my reviews on role-playing games. I noticed the volume was a little low, so I popped that up a little bit. Yeah, it looks like we're still doing drop frames, but not terrible. Anyway, I don't know. Have no idea. I gotta keep messing around with this. But at least the video's like crisper and cleaner. I just don't like the fact that it's kind of, might be kind of choppy. Anyway, I look at the setting, some of, like skills, things like that. Take a look at what can I use? What can I basically steal out of this setting to utilize in a role-playing game? I have, well, maybe when I was, 11 or 12 years old, I ran a game like it was supposed to be run, but ever since then, I just kind of take what I want, get rid of what I don't. So, yes, and the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is sort of like that. There are things that I would definitely change up as far as if I were running it. All right, so, anywho, I know Ghost knows what time it is. Yes, that's right. Ghost knows what time it is. Because the Gaming Gang and thus the Daily Dope are not for profit any longer, which is good, because I wasn't getting rich doing it anyway. So if you do like the Daily Dope, or you happen to hang out at the Gaming Gang and dig that website, by all means, please let me ask if you'll consider to make a donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund over at the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Yes, that's right. Lil Bub's Big Fund is grant monies that go out to organizations that care for special needs animals who are awaiting adoption. So while they're waiting to find their forever homes, somebody's got to take care of them. And these pets might just be a little bit older. They might be deaf, might be blind, might have mobility issues. They may have a whole slew of different things going on with them, like Lil Bub does. You never know. But let me have Lil Bub herself tell you about the fund. Hooray! Yes, I love it. Ghost World's always got something funny to toss out there about Lil Bub. So today it's Battlestar Galacta Bub. Ding. So, gotta point out, okay, so I did not pull down my Lil Whiz Bub, right? My Lil Whiz Bub. to go into that. But if you follow me on Twitter, if you follow at the Gaming Gang over on Twitter, they actually did because Lil Bub, that video that I shared, the video is a few years old because I want to say it's about 5 years old, but Lil Bub's Big Fun has raised like $500,000 for special needs animals, and so Lil Bub is very unique, and you can find out more by going over to Lil Bub. That's LILBUB.com. Because she's got extra toes on her feet. She has like dwarfism, so she's actually much smaller than she should be. Her teeth didn't come in, so she doesn't have teeth. Her jaw is too short, so that's why her tongue pops out all the time. And they actually just recently broke down her DNA. They cracked her genome to find out why she's got these, different things going on. She was suffering from, she does suffer from osteoporosis, or it's not, it's actually where your bones are actually too dense and they don't break down like they naturally should actually shed cells. So it's pretty funny. Megabug, Glenn's asking what happened to the Megabub. Megabub's right here. Megabub's like, boink, right there poking out. So yes, I swapped out the big Lil Bub with the where did it go? I got it. I got it way up there. I had a little polar bear that was poking its head out from there. All right, so what's coming up on next week's show? So on Monday's show, I am going to review the boldest from Stronghold Games. I did the unboxing of this week. I am actually going to be going and hanging out with my best friend Elliot Miller from voiceofe.com tomorrow, and we are going to be playing this. So on Monday, I'll have a review. So now Glenn's like, I'm blind. Glenn, trust me, I don't expect you to see that poking out. Don't expect that at all. Then on Tuesday, from Portal Dragon, they sent me quite a few different games. A couple of very small footprint, but this one is actually a pretty big game. Zephyr Winds of Change, and it's got some heft to it. It appears to be a steampunk game, so kind of interesting. We are going to take a look at that on Tuesday. Wednesday's Wargame Wednesday. It's not a wargame per se, but it is from my friends at GMT Games. I am going to review Space Corp 2025 to 2300 AD. So that's going to be on Wednesday's show. I'm going to do a little bit of how to play and review it. There are like 3 eras in this game. I am not going to bust out all 3 of them because you actually need to set up the 3 of them, and I absolutely have no space. I don't have enough space to do that. So I will set up one of the eras and do the review. Thursday show, I am going to take a look at the classic Castle Falkenstein from our Telsorian Games, as well as this supplement for, I know there are quite a few different supplements for Castle Falkenstein, which is also a steampunk game, but I believe this is the latest one. So I'm going to be taking a look at that on Thursday's show. Then on Friday's show, a game that was kickstarted, and it took over 3 years, I believe, for my friend Terry Coleman to actually get it out. But it is finally out and available. Yes, it is Traveler Ascension Imperial Warrant. I did an interview with Terry at last year's Origins, and he was kind of showing this off a little bit. And it is finally out, and he sent me a copy of it. Now, this is the base game. I understand there is supposed to be a lot of Kickstarter exclusives, and there are a lot of expansions and things like that, I think, that are available now from Daring Play. So we're going to dig into that on next Friday's show. And this is another box that is, I can tell right now, we're going to open this up. There's not going to be a lot of empty air in that box. It's going to be pretty darn packed with stuff. Okay, so let's finally jump on in. Yeah, about 30 minutes for the news and stuff like that. Wasn't on Kickstarter an age ago. Yes, Kabuki Kid, it was. That was on... it was on Kickstarter. Like I said, I think this funded like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. It looks pretty cool. If you want to get an idea, a better look at it before next Friday's show, if you go check, if you do a search for Terry Coleman on the Gaming Gang channel, you'll see the interview that I did with him last Origins, and we mainly just talk about Traveler Ascension, and I've got some B-roll footage of it. Well, Kabuki's like, I almost backed that one. Yeah, I think the backers were kind of ticked. I got a few nasty comments on the video, and I was like, hey, how am I supposed to know this? I don't know. So Terry's a friend of mine. He said, yeah, I got this game coming out. Would you consider doing an interview? And I said, sure. It's like, I didn't know it'd been back, umpteen years earlier. Anywho, Adventures in Middle-earth, the Bree-land Region guide, is from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. It's written by Gareth Ryder Hanrahan, John Hodgson, Francesco Nepitello, and Jacob Rogers, with artwork provided by Andrew Hepworth, John Hodgson, Sam Manley, Jan Pospisil, that's taking a stab, and Scott Purdy. The 126-page hardcover supplement can be had for $34.99. That includes the PDF. If you order it through the Cubicle 7 store, you can also get the PDF for a sale price of $15.99. Remember, I told you that GM's Day sale is going on over at Drive-Thru RPG. It is normally $19.99. So, by all means, if you're interested in picking it up in PDF, please stop by the Gaming Gang first and click on one of our banners. Okay, so let's move on over to the other camera here. So, we've got the Adventures in Middle-earth Bree-land Region guide. This came out for the One Ring, because if you are not overly familiar with Adventures in Middle-earth, and see, now I can say these things. Cubicle 7 and anybody who's using an open gaming license cannot actually say this. I can say this. Dungeons and Dragons. As I get a sip there. Yes. Adventures in Middle-earth is... Hey, Viper Dave's popping in. Hi, Viper Dave. So Adventures in Middle-earth is actually supplements for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, where it ports over all the awesome work Cubicle 7 has done with their One Ring RPG, or I should say, the One Ring role-playing game, which my new correspondent, I guess I shouldn't call Sammy new. She's been around for about a month now doing reviews for me. Sammy just sent in a review for The One Ring, which I posted yesterday. So it is actually the only role-playing game that I believe we have. I think it's the only game that there's actually 2 reviews of on the Gaming Gang. There's my review for when it originally came out as... oh gosh, it was The One Ring, but it had like a longer, like almost like subtitle to it. Adventures Across the whatever. And it actually came as a 2-book. It was a 2-book slipcase. So you had like the player's guide, and then you had the lore master's guide to it. Where now it's just the One Ring. It is one book. Ghost says, oh, you said the D word. Yeah, because I can say Dungeons and Dragons. It's the DD word. Because this isn't my product, right? I don't have to say open game license or open gaming license. I can say Dungeons and Dragons because it is for 5th edition, right there, 5e. I have to admit, it was pretty funny when because I interviewed Dominic McDowell all the time at Gen Con. He was at an Origins one time, and I interviewed him there too. And the interview that we do when Adventures in Middle-earth was coming out, I had to edit it, and I had to actually do a bunch of B-roll that I shot and overlay the edits because Dominic kept saying Dungeons and Dragons. He's like, "Oh, damn it! I'm not allowed to say that." So I was like, "Okie doke." All right, welcome to Bree and the Inn of the Prancing Pony. Nestled at the foot of the ancient landmark of the Bree Hill, Bree and the Prancing Pony provide a welcome respite from the trials of the road. With a wisdom of its own, Bree has endured for centuries, minding its own business and serving passing travelers with good food and better beer. Beer. Surrounded by deserted and dangerous lands and watched over by the mysterious rangers of the north, Bree is the ideal place to begin a new journey or take a rest from a wearying one. Bree-land Region Guide includes details of the Bree-land, I would hope so, it's a region guide, including Bree itself, Archette, Combi, and Staddle, things to do in Bree, new undertakings and suggested adventure seeds, maps of Bree-land, Bree, and the Prancing Pony, a complete set of customized journey tables for the Bree-land, a new playable culture, the Dwarves of the Blue Mountains, 3 exciting adventures that begin at level 1 and carry the heroes to 4th level or beyond, Old Bones and Skin, Strange Men, Strange Roads, and Hold Up in Staddle. As it points out, Bree-land Region Guide contains the information adventures previously released as Bree for the One Ring role-playing game, fully converted to be compatible with Adventures in Middle-earth and the OGL rules. Kabuki says they're getting some lag here. Yeah, well, okay, so one thing I do want to point out is sometimes when you get lag in the live stream, it's going to be a little bit different in the actual video once it renders, because sometimes we get lag, and then when the video is done rendering, it's fine. So hopefully it's not too bad. Although it does show that our drop frames have jumped up a lot. Let's see. Let's try something here real quick. Because the thing is, I have this set for this to actually... Well... Yeah, strange. I don't know. It's supposed to have a limiter to how many kilobits per second are being produced, and it's like way over it. 2 cameras at once? No, my CPU usage is low, so that is not it. It's not the stutter that we get when we get that cooking. So we'll see if it clears up. I'm not sure what might be going on. I have to talk to Xfinity anyway, because we're supposed to be getting way better speeds than we are at the moment. So that I will probably do tomorrow. Okay, so let's take a peek here. And first off, I can tell you, now if you were watching last night when we took a look at The Witcher pen and paper role-playing game from Artelsorian Games, the paper stock was actually fairly thin and really glossy. Paper stock for this is very nice. Very nicely done. Usually the games that are produced, the game books, I should say, produced over in Europe, the quality of the paper and the binding in that is usually really top-notch. Okay, so let's go into the content. So we've got the introduction. So we've got how to use this book, basically. Talking about the adventures that we've got. There we go, how to use this guide. Challenge levels. It has been a long, long time since I actually looked at the One Ring, the core book for the One Ring. Probably 4 or 5 years, maybe. But so we've got the challenge rating XP. So that is an OGL thing. But that's one thing that I like about old school D&D or old school role-playing games, as opposed to like new school, is that like Glenn says, I thought it might be my own connection. I have two teenagers both using Netflix on their TVs. It is possible somebody's using Netflix right above my head. So, but our internet's supposed to be well enough to be able to do that, to be able to handle that. But I was going to say, I'm not a huge fan of everything is kind of balanced for the players, so that oh well, you're never going up against anything that should be, you know, too tough for you guys. Whereas old school is sort of like, hey, this is what it is. If you can't handle, you know, if you can't take this monster down or these monsters down, well, then you better run, or you better figure out a different way to approach this challenge. I like that. So the modern sensibility of, well, you know, we kind of balance the encounters and everything to the level of the character or whatever. I'm just not a huge fan. All right, so enough of that pontificating. So here we have Bree-land and around the Bree Hill, and we've got the art style we're used to seeing in the One Ring as well as Adventures in Middle Earth. So we've got an NPC here, Ruby Boffin. The Shire is not included in this, I don't think. I don't think the Shire is considered part of Bree-land, but I may be wrong, because we're seeing here as a small hobbit. Temporary fellowship phase undertaking, build a refuge. That is one thing that the One Ring and Adventures in Middle Earth does do differently than really just about any other role-playing game. I think there is one powered by the Apocalypse game. Oh gosh, now off the top of my head I can't even think about it. I can't think of it. It's like the Crusade or something like that. Whereas it's really focused on the actual travels, the actual adventuring as you travel across. Like for an example, was showing the Fellowship phase undertaking, building a refuge. There's different things that your group of adventurers can do that isn't usually the kind of stuff that any run-of-the-mill kind of role-playing game is going to be. You know, usually you got like kind of your hex crawl or whatever for your wilderness adventuring and stuff like that. But the One Ring and Adventures in Middle Earth approaches that kind of different. So Ghost says, if you have a good GM, you can definitely get that nightmare mode level play. I always lean in a bit heavier on my PCs in terms of difficulty, makes the reward better. I always love to do the old, and granted, I don't run a lot of fantasy stuff. I've just started to with the gang. It was always Call of Cthulhu for decades. But I love to tempt my players. Sort of like, wow, I would really that treasure looks really cool, but you got to deal with whatever happens to be there. Well, that's a nasty troll, but wow, that ring glinting in the pool near him. Yeah, kind of, you know, rather than, hey, here's just this monster, you know, go kill it, go be murder hobos. That is one thing that, of course, the One Ring and Adventures in Middle Earth is not a game that really pushes murder hoboing as far as the characters. Okay, so popping on through here. So this is mainly Bree is what it looks like here. It's talking about different inns. Oh, there's Staddle. And Combi, I'm not sure. I'll be the first to admit that, of course, I've read The Hobbit, I've read The Lord of the Rings, I read The Silmarillion and didn't really care for it. That's a Tolkien book I've only read once and had to struggle through that long ago. So here we have a map of Bree. So that's pretty nicely done. So got that. A lot of NPCs I noticed. Okay, now we're in the Prancing Pony. And the innkeeper, Barnabas Butterbur. I am Barnabas Butterbur. Okay, so here we have the map of the Prancing Pony. Oh my gosh, there's no grids on here? How am I supposed to understand how big these rooms are? Okay. Prices of the pony, a night at the Prancing Pony, audiences at the inn, adventuring in Bree for level 1 or 2. Level 1 or 2 stuff, 3 or 4, any level. So it looks like these are kind of some adventure seeds that are being dropped here. Depending on the level of the characters. You know, write a letter. Types of letters. Okay. That's interesting. It's to gain an audience? Looks like it. Looks like kind of maybe to gain an audience. Alright, so here are the Dwarves of the Blue Mountains. So this is the new culture that's being introduced. Foes to freeze the heart. Bluebell Wood Oakmen. They look pretty creepy. Yep. Yeah. Silmarillion's a bit of a slog. Yes. Yes, and it is dense with lore. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Okay. I happen to be a big Fritz Leiber fan. So I know this might sound like blasphemy. Now, I like Tolkien's work. I like The Lord of the Rings. I like The Hobbit. The Hobbit's obviously really more of a children's tale than anything else. But I happen to be a much bigger fan of, like, the Grey Mouser, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, than I am of Tolkien's books. Yes, I know people will not like me saying that, but to me, it's like, and I had a friend of mine, real good friend of mine, and they were like, they loved those books, and of course, when Peter Jackson's movies came out, they were in heaven, which personally I thought were awesome. Don't get me wrong, but there's just way too many songs and poems and things like that for my personal taste. So, sorry. Not saying I don't like Tolkien. It's just, like, last time I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, every time I run across, like, a song or poem or something, I just jump right ahead. I just skip right on past it. Okay, so in Empty Land... Oh, wow. Old Troll. That's pretty wild. Pretty nice artwork there. So we've got Journey event tables. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wonder if these are kind of tied into the levels, into the player character levels. Fine spot for a camp, or maybe they could be by area. Because there's a lot of event table entries here. So we got 12. What goes at 12? Okay, so now we get into the adventures. So we've got Old Bones and Skin for heroes level 1 or 2. So we've got Part 1, Stories by the Fire, The Nephew's Tale. It should be a lion in graveyard, over the misty mounds. Up came Tom with his big boots on. Old Skins and Sins. And then finally, we've got Finding the Barrow. Though dead he be, it belongs to me. And then the epilogue of Blood and Bone, of Water and Earth. So another thing that we see more in modern role-playing games. Wow, yeah. Very, very strange. Because it's weird, because I'm taking a look at the program I'm using, and all of a sudden we hit like 8,000 kilobits per second, and that is not what I'm trying to do. That's almost double what it's supposed to be outputting. Now, I'll have to play around. I changed up some of the rendering, the way the videos are made, and that. So when there isn't any sort of kind of a delay or anything like that, or buffering, actually the video's been really nice and clear. So I'll have to play around, see what we can do with that. All right, so this is the first adventure here. But I was going to say, well, more modern role-playing games it's a lot of set pieces, a lot of, you go from scene to scene, which, you know, depending on what you're running is fine. I mean, a horror role-playing game, yeah, I expect to go kind of scene to scene. Whereas sometimes, like, you know, if in a dungeon delving sort of role-playing game, which, strangely enough, for a game called Dungeons and Dragons, we don't have that many dungeons. That's kind of always been the case. But games that tend to be kind of a dungeon delve shouldn't really be scene to scene or encounter to encounter. All right, so then we got Strange Men, Strange Roads. This is for heroes level 3 or 4. Looks like a caravan of some sort is involved in this. The Body in the Well. Right, well, obviously enough, if you're a player hoping for your game master to run this, or I guess lore master, kind of getting some spoilers here. Sorry. Saw the trailer of the new Tolkien biopic movie. Looks interesting. You know, I gotta be honest, I saw it and I was not, I don't know. I don't know. To me, it seemed almost like it's a money grab. I noticed they were really, really trying to push the whole kind of Peter Jackson style of, you know, his imagination, like scenes from his imagination. I don't know. It might be okay. The movie might be fine. Might end up being really good. I don't know. I saw the trailer. I was just kind of like, I don't know. Then again, it's not like I'm Gary Gygax, who hated Tolkien, and he used to drive him nuts when they would write articles about Dungeons and Dragons and include the Lord of the Rings in it. He was like, oh. Now granted, he brought that on himself because he had hobbits and elves and dwarves, so of course you're gonna get that comparison laid in there. But he swore up and down that Lord of the Rings really was not a major inspiration for Dungeons and Dragons. That Robert E. Howard's work and Fritz Leiber's work, good old Appendix N. But obviously, the story I've been told is the story I've always heard was that they included a lot of the Tolkien-ish classes and cultures because they didn't think the game would sell without it. So, I don't know. I do not know. Okay, so that is that was the second adventure. Then we have Hold Up and Staddle for levels 4 and 5. Down rode the Huntress into the Chetwood, Things Out of Place, Watching and Waiting, Death Under the Apple Trees, and the Harvest Moon. Okay. But one thing you do notice looking through this, there is not a lot of maps with, you know, well, as I say that, here we go, we get a map. But they're not the standard D&D kind of maps where you've got it on the graph paper. It's, you know, you got the grid. Not at all. So, with Adventures in Middle-earth, you really have to approach it, even playing it, you know, of course, ported over for 5e. You have to approach it differently than you would standard Dungeons and Dragons. Although, like any role-playing game, everybody's got a different way of approaching running the games. Some people are much more combat heavy. Some people are much more storytelling oriented. A lot of times what I like to do is I like to kind of do things where it's more along the lines of what the players do create the story. And I mean, I was famous for Call of Cthulhu stuff, where Elliot and the other his nephew Paul and my friend Ed, our friend Ed, they were the three characters who usually played three players all the time, and they do something, and I would bank that in the back of my head, and months later, and I'm not talking game time, I'm talking real life time. Months later, we'd be playing, and I something would happen and be like, "Oh my gosh, how did how did that happen?" You know, it was like, "Hey, you know, actions have consequences." So that was sort of my hook. Anyway, that is Adventures in Middle Earth: The Bree-land Region Guide from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. As I mentioned, you can get this hardcover with the PDF from the Cubicle 7 store for $34.99. I got to be honest, I do not know if Cubicle 7 has a deal where if you go and you buy this at your friendly local game store, if you get a copy of the PDF from Cubicle 7. I don't know. You might have to actually order it from the Cubicle 7 store. Of course, as I did mention, there is also the Game Masters Day or GM's Day sale going on at Drive-Thru RPG. You can get the Bree-land Region Guide for $15.99 on sale. It's normally $19.99. Okay, so let's see what's going on with chat here. Oh yeah, talking about books. Everybody's talking about books right now, and the Tolkien biopic. So yeah, there's talk about like the physical media. I completely agree. Unfortunately, it's a little difficult sometimes when because got to remember I traveled a lot for up to about 2 years ago. For about 5 years, I traveled a bunch, and it's a lot easier to just have an iPad loaded up with movies or TV shows and stuff like that, as opposed to like dragging along some DVD player, things like that. So, all right, that is it for tonight's show. As I mentioned, on Monday's show, I will be reviewing The Boldest from Stronghold Games, and we'll tell you what I think. I gotta admit, the art is really, really cool in The Boldest, but it carries an $80, well, $79.95 price tag, which I don't know, seems a little high. It seems a little high. All right. So anyway, when you are not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please be sure to go visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I will be back on Monday. So have a wonderful weekend, very safe weekend, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.